There's no Scotty Barnes for the Raptors, no problem, because it was a tale of two quarters for Julius Randle. You know, the guy who had it cooking early, had a shot going, was creating for his teammates, turned into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, man. Throwing the ball all over the place, stumbling and bumbling, and it just carried over. Knicks took a 15-point lead in the second quarter. The Raptors cut it down to 4, and then more turnovers in the second half, sloppy play, lousy defense. Knicks find themselves on the losing end of this one, man. 113-104, disappointing loss, letdown game, whatever you want to call it, trap game if you want to call it that. Overall, just a lackluster performance, and the Knicks' 3-game winning streak has been snapped.
Yeah, it was frustrating is the word. I can use a bunch more words, but frustrating is the big word. To have such a start that we saw. It was looking like it was gonna be, an easy game. We're back home after 2 away games, but man, that second half we just did not look inspired on defense at all. Offense was just lazy, and yeah, it looked like once we lost the lead, we were never going to get it back because nobody outside of R.J. Barrett or Mitchell Robinson looked like there was any kind of effort being put on the court, even from our bench. Just a overall terrible game. It was a very Tip-Tony type of night.
To see Randle play as well as he was in that first quarter going into the second, I thought this was going to be, it was leading up to being his best game of the season in terms of being a facilitator. We saw in that first quarter, possession after possession, he was finding Fournier for open threes. He was finding RJ. And that allowed him to get it cooking on offense because it started with him, identifying the double teams, driving to the paint and kicking it out to the open man. And that worked for the Knicks early on. It allowed the Knicks to be more efficient on offense. And we got, a 15-point lead on the Raptors. And then it turned all the way around. We got into bad habits, starting with Randle. He got into too much isolation, and I'm okay with isolation basketball, CP, because at the end of the day, and I know that's a big topic in the Knicks community, but when you look around the NBA, everybody's going to play ISO, especially the best player. The only issue I have in terms of Randle playing the ISO is where is he getting the ball at to start the isolation play? He's not getting the ball in situations where, he's going to put pressure on the defense. We're actually making it easier on the defense to defend us when he's getting the ball by the three-point line or he tries to go one-on-one in areas of the court, man. That lead to bad shots. And to me, like I said, the 3 takeaways is Randle's performance was disappointing. To me, Tom Thibodeau is another one that I hold accountable because there was some rotational question marks that I had, as well as the way that he utilized RJ. I did not agree with, how RJ was used in this game. Yeah. When you have a player that comes off a 35-point performance, forget the opponent. Forget that it was the Pelicans and Brandon Ingram was out. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is momentum. What matters is maybe this guy has figured it out.
I told you, the question was after the Pelicans game, would the things change? Would the dynamic of the offense change with RJ going off? I said, this is still going to run through Julius. And again, it was just so puzzling because in the first quarter, he has it cooking. The offense is running efficiently. They moving the rock. They had, 12 assists in either the first quarter or the first half. They're moving it very well, shooting the 3 very well, potent. And then second quarter, he's just chucking up fadeaway jumpers, loose with the handle. And OG's eating his food, Ash. I mean, you get 36 points for OG Anunoby.
With a team like Toronto going to the Knicks, first of all, your offense has drastically gotten better, right? You have that depth that you were craving last season, but by byproduct, your defense has suffered a little bit. Statistically, it's there. We were top 10. Now you're looking at, I believe it's like 21 right now. So the defense is already at a deficit. But what you don't have to do is make it easier for a team like Toronto to contest your shots, right? And what we were seeing between the first half and the second half is that the Knicks were really hitting their shots, right? Especially those long-range three-pointers. Everything was hitting. And what happens is I feel like because the Knicks have found ways to win when they've been in a deficit in terms of losing leads, they have kind of relied in that same, they've become content in that way of functioning. And it just takes the right team. And tonight it was the Toronto Raptors to kind of capitalize on that. And you couldn't outshoot them, at least not this game. ISO ball killed us. Lack of defense killed us. It was just a disaster from all the way around. Julius Randle did not look interested to be there. I don't know if he was having a bad night. The plus and the minus, I mean, everybody from RJ Barrett all the way down to Kemba Walker was in the minus. It was just a disaster from all aspects of the court. That's not how you play basketball. That's not the New York Knicks basketball that we've been seeing. And something's got to give, because you can't continue to maneuver like that and hope for a winning outcome. It's just not going to happen.
CK, it's like they just get way too complacent with a lead, man. Once they get the lead, it's kind of like they just take their foot off the gas. And that hasn't been our identity even last year. You know, even last year, you're still putting pressure on teams defensively, and you're playing most of the time 48 minutes of ball. It just seems like we've seen it over and over and over again against Chicago, against the Pelicans, now against this Raptor team. You have big leads, and they get cut down in no time because you're taking your foot off the gas. And, you know, this team is early in the season. They're going to have to learn from this because you're going to start playing better teams.
This time, they got us a lot earlier. And we saw that it doesn't work the same way when you got 2 whole quarters. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is to what Ashley had just mentioned. You know, a lot of that comes to we're going to be playing through our leader who's supposed to be Julius Randle. And if you're not going to take care of the ball in some of those instances, you're not going to take the right shots in those instances. And the body language, and I've been trying to ignore it, but you definitely saw it today. The body language was just off, and it's something that you don't like to see, especially when we were still winning or we were just down by a point or 2 points. In the third quarter or in the second quarter, those kind of things you don't want to see. And then I also, my last point with Julius Randle for tonight is I just don't like it feels like, and I could be wrong. If y'all don't feel that way, that's cool. But it just feels like there's a competition with your own teammate rather than a competition against the other team. Mm-hmm. I said it or Saturday when it was just you, me, and CP that I want to see a game where both Julius and RJ are on. And it feels like in a game like tonight where, to JD's point, which I think he put perfectly, when you know the kind of game that RJ Barrett had the night before, and he started this game just as hot. He was just as consistent, just as hot. And yes, Julius was as well, but why take the attention away from him and take some of those shots that we saw in that second quarter?
Very embarrassing loss.
And
let's get down to the nuts and bolts of why it happened.
Let's go.
To start off with Julius, I actually tweeted this out. It's very frustrating watching him tonight. I hope the conspiracy theory about his newborn wearing him out is true, just because it wasn't the shooting, because he actually didn't even shoot that terrible on the whole night. His effort just wasn't there on the rebounds, chasing down loose balls. And to you guys' point about those mid-range shots, this team is well equipped to excel in the mid-range off of those catch and drive, pump fake on the three-pointer stuff, because we have so many shooters, people are going to be scrambling. In fact, Toronto's overplaying us in the entire second half, right? But the issue is when you have the ball sticking with one person, when you're struggling to get passes because people aren't putting in the effort to get open, they're not getting low and sealing people off, that slows the whole possession down. Now the team's not scrambling, and that's when you get these kind of standstill, these super late pick and roll concession shots. And I don't want to blame it all on Julius, but I would say from an effort standpoint, he was the one who stuck out.
And the problem I see is that we got a team with 2 new starters on, and that are starting to learn how to play together. We're starting to see Barrett grow right now before our very eyes. And Tibbs is still messing with the rotation. Why isn't Obi playing more? Because to me, his defense energizes the second unit. The other thing I'm talking about here, if you look at the fact that Randle had a bad second half, it isn't so much that he had a bad second half. It's just that we start falling in love with that 3 instead of doing the 2-man game, the penetrating and kick. Then he wants to know why Fournier is not in the game. Did he not watch the game where Fournier was all over the place on defense? He looked like a daggone one of those headless dolls that swing left and right. He didn't know what he was doing tonight. So that's why Fournier wasn't in the game. He just didn't have it defensively tonight. What we should have done tonight was when Anunoby started getting hot in the first quarter, as a coach, I wanted Tibbs to throw RJ on Anunoby from jump. Mm-hmm. Now, Anunoby might have still had a good game, but I think RJ would have shut it down a little more.
I'm not a Randle hater. I love Randle. Everybody knows that. Positive 100%. But what I wanted him to learn from the Atlanta series, and nobody's blaming him for losing the Atlanta series. He was getting double teamed. What I wanted him to work on in the summer, he's not showing me. I got to see you be able to swing out of the double team, bro. Come back and get it back. If you want to get it back, repost, get closer. Because he's not aware. And I'm not blaming Randle for this game. Truthfully, in my opinion, I'm blaming Tibbs. D Rose was off tonight. He had a lot of turnover. He had 2 turnovers, 1 for 7. He looked like he was slow out there today.
Yeah,
you gotta use McBride and Grimes. They're just sitting there. You gotta speed up the game, Tibbs. But in Randle's defense, he's not taking as many shots as he normally would. He just can't play out of a double team. And that's all I wanted him to work on this summer. You got to see where it's coming from, and you got to swing it out quickly. Ari was right. And everybody knows I'm not always on Ari and Jay from Florida's side, but he was right, bro. You got to get that ball out your hands. The best thing that Carmelo Anthony was able to do, even though he gets a knock, is he could play through a double team. Randle has to learn that, and I'm not gonna bash him. He's gonna get to that point, or else we're not gonna be able to take off. But other than that, I blame this on Tibbs. Nick Nurse, you got to give credit to the Raptors, man. They was coaching up.
Yeah.
They played defense. So, just everybody take it easy.
Yeah.
It's one game. But I just need Randle to work on the double team, bro. I'm not asking you for much, but you got to learn where that double team is coming from. You can't hold it. You can't turn your back against it. You got to watch where it's coming from.
All right, well, listen, we got all the frustration out. It was a tough loss. Wednesday's another day. We back at